Hello, YouTube coin collection stackers. We're going to have some fun today just looking over some stuff I've purchased over the past week. Before we get started, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I sincerely appreciate it. Before we get rolling with some stuff, if you've received one of these in the mail and you're wondering what these folks pay for your coins, I will post the link in the description below. I'll also pin it in the comment so you can go and see. I took 5 coins down to them. Many of you have already seen this video, I'm sure, and saw what they'd pay for 5 nice slabbed coins. So if you're curious about that, please go and watch that video. It's my PSA for the coin collecting community. So I'm going to start off today with a fun one, and I'm going to warn you, it's not coin related, but it is related to my childhood, and I picked this guy up yesterday. It's a Star Wars number 3 from September 1977, graded 8.5 by CGC, and not a super high grade. It's like about a $70 comic. I'm trying to keep it out of the lights in this condition, but I just had to have it. I saw it hanging up there. It was up on the shelf, and I remember this comic from when I was a kid specifically. I love how Chewbacca looks. He literally looks like King Kong coming at you. Even like Luke Skywalker has a red lightsaber. So a lot of it that's different. And then the funny part is when I flipped it over, I saw this is the movie they're advertising on the back, Orca. Now, if you remember this movie, please let me know. I don't remember the movie, although I am curious to watch it. It looks like it's sort of like Jaws, but with a whale. So anyway, that was fun pickup, not coin related, but fun pickup this week. Next, what we have is a pair of books. So these are counterfeit detection books. I was able to win these in an auction at my coin club. Again, I'm going to plug your local coin club if you don't belong to one. Oftentimes they have these old books. They go up for auction, and for some reason, beats me. I don't know why people don't bid on them, but you need a numismatic library, like a physical library of books if you're serious about the hobby. A lot of the stuff that's contained in these old books is not online. It's not in ChatGPT. It hasn't been indexed. And I'll show you a specific example of something that's helped me a lot in my passion, which is mercury dimes. But this is a book that came out in I think the 80s or early 90s. And this one is actually signed by, hold on, let me get there. My fingers aren't working today. So this one is signed by J.P. Martin. So J.P. Martin is a senior numismatist at Annex. And this is the gentleman who's taught the summer seminar on counterfeit detection since 1984, like every year. So he signed this in 1990, you can see there. And he even teaches the Secret Service how to do counterfeit detection. So excellent book. So I wanted to pick that up. I look forward to reading that as well. Then I also picked up this other book, reprinted from the Numismatist. This is the American Numismatic Society Counterfeit Detection book. It's a different book with different coins in it. This one is signed by Walter Breen and Bruce Vogel. So Walter Breen wrote the Encyclopedia of U.S. Coins and Colonial Coins. And he also, with Bruce Vogel's help, who compiled his work afterward, wrote U.S. Cents 1816 to 1857. So Walter Breen was, majorly influential in the numismatic hobby. Unfortunately, he had some kind of rather sultry things that he did on the side related to child sex offenses and other things, and ended up dying in prison. So he's a controversial person in our hobby. And for rightful reasons, right? So anyway, but he did make a pretty big contribution to the hobby, before he sadly did those other awful things. But in this book in particular, the reason I wanted this book was for this specific page. So die study of 1916 dimes. So I do a presentation where I talk about how do you actually determine whether your 16D dime is a legit dime. Second most altered, counterfeited, whatever you want to call it, U.S. coin after the SVDB cent. And often it's done by adding the D. And so there's specific things you look for. And one of the things is there's only 4 die reverses that were used for the 16D. So this book has those 4 die reverses. You can see them here, the different placement of the D, what's going on. Type 2 is a RPM. You can see there, very prominent RPM. Type 3 is an RPM as well, much thicker. You can see the placement. So if your D looks different on your 16D than any of these, it's not at the same angle, it's not in one of these positions and so forth, you have a fake one. So when I saw that these 4 photos which are very hard to find, by the way. If you don't have this book, I bought the book. I bid on the book and won the book. And it just so happens to come with the autographs, which are quite controversial in their own right. So next up, what we have is we got some of these cool, just original bank rolls. These are just sealed. Well, this one's not, but this is sealed in one of those, containers that, takes, heaven and earth to get this thing off. But a roll of UNC 63Ds. I think this is a roll of UNC 67Ds and a roll of UNC 81Ds. You can pick these up pretty cheap, of course, with pennies being discontinued and copper becoming more expensive by the minute. Picking up rolls of copper coins is just fun and kind of a cool thing to do. Next up, what we have is one that I'm considering sending in for grading. Let me zoom in and get some really good light on it. So this is just a really interesting, beautifully toned 1880p Morgan dollar, and I have it at AU plus. I think it's probably like MS63 in that range. It could even be a 64 coin. That doesn't make it particularly valuable. A coin like this in a 64 holder is probably around $100 or so, in that range, maybe a little more than that. But the toning on it's really, really quite exceptional on this. I bought this out of a collection recently, and it was actually in just an old manila envelope and had been stored in a shoebox for years and years, and took this toning on. So I'm considering sending this one in for grading, just because I think it should be in a holder due to the toning that's on it. And you can see there, it's quite exceptional on this coin. Very pretty coin. Again, very common coin, very common in 64 and 65 grades. Nothing particular. Like, for example, in a 64, there's 18,000 of these in the PCGS population report. And believe me, I understand that population report's inflated, but still, 18,000 is a lot. You have 3,000 by 65, and it becomes a real condition rarity at 67. So, 65 coin costs you probably around $300, give or take. By the time you get to 67, this coin is $10,000 to $15,000. So true condition rarity, but very common coin otherwise. Another one I picked up, I did a short on this. You may have seen it. I'll zoom out a little, and then we'll zoom in. Is I picked up this 1882 O/S in this old NGC holder, and it's graded 62. Let's zoom in a little. Now, this one's it's got pretty toning on it. The toning, of course, because of the reflectiveness of the actual slab, is really, really hard to see under the light. The mark you see on the nose, on her nose there, is actually a scratch on this slab. This slab was not stored properly. I'll show you all the scuffing on it. So I'm considering doing a crossover on this to PCGS. Love to hear your thoughts on that. But the toning is quite exceptional. I think that this has a shot. Again, a lot of what the scuffing you're seeing is on the slab, but the cheek is pretty clean for a 62. This is a very nice 62. I think it's got a shot at going into a 3-holder, and that would probably increase the value by $100, $150 over what I paid for it, because I got a pretty good deal on this. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on crossover, crack out, that sort of a thing. But yeah, there you can see the toning. It's a very, very pretty coin, and I got a pretty sweet deal on it. I was visiting a friend who was about an hour and a half from here, and they had a coin shop nearby I hadn't been to, so I decided to swing by and check it out and pick that up. They had a lot of nice coins there. They had like a 37 proof 68 Mercury dime. They had some nice stuff there. 1889 CC Carson City. That was probably like VF. Really nice coin they had there. So it was fun. They had some nice stuff. What we're looking at now is this 1926 Philly Buffalo nickel, obviously. And let me see, it's gone out of, there we go. I'll stop moving it around. It does not want to focus. I found this coin in the bottom of a box in a collection I bought. I don't know how it got there. It was just kind of buried under a whole lot of other stuff. It's a very common coin. 44.5 million of these minted. And it's the most common buffalo and gem state you'll find from the 1920s. This one's very sharply struck, as you can see if it'll stay in focus. It's got a nice frosty sort of luster to it. And just a really, really, really nice coin. So this one's going to go in for grading. It did have PVC and some other kind of impacts on it, so I did some restoration work on it to clean it up. I'll take another look at it under the loupe, make sure I got it all, and this will go in my next PCGS submission, so that'll be a future unboxing. I was also able to pick up this pretty cool 1908S Indian cent. So if you know anything about Indian cents, you'd know that this is the third lowest mintage of the series at 1.1 million minted. The only ones lower are the 1877 and the 1909S, which is the lowest of the entire series, and that's the one that has a huge premium on it. It's the first non-silver coin, the first cent, or nickel, but the first non-silver coin struck at a branch mint, and there were gold coins struck at branch mints, but you mean base metal coins I'm speaking about. So in 1908, this was the first one that was struck at a branch mint. And if we look at the reverse here, we see it's got an S on it. I'm considering sending this one in for grading. It may or may not be worth it. It's probably, $100 and something coin, but it might be nice just to get it graded. It does have a little bit of a rim dinger. If I can get it right there, you can see this got a rim ding on it, which isn't great, but it's a nice coin nonetheless, and I got a pretty good deal on it. This one here is nothing special. It's just a Philly steel cent, but you can see the toning is quite exceptional on this coin. I just thought it was super pretty. Look at the pastel purples and blues and greens and so forth that we see on there. It's quite amazing, quite beautiful coin, and it does carry over to the reverse as well. So yeah, just a really interesting coin to have. I don't know if I'll get it slabbed or not. I did slab a 59 cent I did an unboxing on that was stunning with reds and all sorts of colors. But I just like this. This is a very, very pretty coin. So last night, I had a neighbor who texted me, and I had purchased some junk 90 quarters from them last week or so. And they said, hey, we found more coins. We found some more foreign coins. And they texted me some pictures and things. And I said, yeah, bring them on over. So they brought over a few things. So let's see. Some common Morgan dollars. So here's an 1885 Morgan dollar. I'd say, just a Philly, nice, honest, circulated coin. I like the looks on these. I like the look on this next one, particularly when they have this look. This is one of my favorite looks for a circulated Morgan dollar. I call that the honest circulated Morgan dollar. We talked about this a lot in the grading class I took at the A&A in Atlanta, where they had chimneys and things, and these fireplaces and Morgan dollars were subjected to that, so they got this sort of smoky soot on them. And when they get cleaned off, they look like this, right? You can see the difference here between an honest circulated one and one that has been cleaned at some point along the way. And that's an O there, 97O, or sorry, 1890 O, and a 97 O, I believe. Yeah, these are both New Orleans coins. And whoops, man, my hands are not working today. We have a 21 Morgan that obviously got I call it scrub-a-dubbed. You can see the sort of whizzing that happened to it. Somewhere along the way, it got whizzed right across there pretty darn good. So this is obviously just sort of a junk coin. And a couple piece dollars. Actually, a few, right? A few piece dollars. The 25's okay. It's honest circulated. I did a little restoration because it was just in bad shape. But nothing crazy with that one. We'll get to this 20. And then we have a 22 that, is kind of a junk coin, but talk about a junk coin. This one, I actually did a video, months and months ago called What in the Dave Happened to My Coins? And it was a collection I bought of Morgan dollars and piece dollars that all had the name Dave scratched in them like this. So this took me back to the PTSD I had from buying that collection. And you see this guy's been scrubbed and cleaned and scratched and etched and so forth. So certainly seen better days. But it's always funny to see that. So the last thing that happened, and this is going to be both a lesson in a metalytics, how to use a metalytics machine for a certain type of coin, and to keep an eye out for things when folks are just handing you things. So sometimes, you just get this thing where, hey, we got a bunch of just stuff. So let me zoom in here. And they came over and said, hey, we just had these sort of foreign coins we found. And I see this one sitting on top. And I kind of pulled this one off and said, wait a second, let me look at that one. That one looks special. These other ones, are, base, got some silver in them and whatever, like the Mexican one and the Japanese one. But this one here, I said, let me check and see if this is real. I pulled it off. And they thought this was a souvenir coin, just, because it was too shiny. And they thought it was something you get sort of out of a gumball machine. And so I said, well, let me throw it on the Metalytics machine. Now, the interesting thing about this coin, let me zoom back in so we can look at it. That's, of course, St. George slaying the dragon. This is a 1917 British sovereign. This one was minted in Melbourne, and you can see there, if I can't zoom in anymore, but you can see right above the 1917, the M, there it is. So that's the Melbourne mint mark. Now, if this didn't have a mint mark on it, that would mean it was minted in London, kind of like London is the Philadelphia of the the British Commonwealth. But you have this no mint mark there. If this didn't have a mint mark on it, this would be a very expensive coin. It's considered a key date, very expensive, also highly counterfeited. In fact, there were a lot of quality counterfeits that came out of Lebanon in the 70s. They were made so well they fooled a lot of dealers. They're still kind of floating around. But this one's just a Melbourne. So the other thing you got to realize about this coin that's a little different is that it's not any sort of standard gold fineness that you would expect, like 0.9 fine or 3/9 fine or something like this. It's got an odd mix of alloy in it. So let's clear a little space here, and I'm going to take you through what I needed to do on the Metalytics machine to get this to work. So the first thing is, okay, what setting am I going to use for this? I have the basic entry-level, Sigma. I don't have the fancy smancy one, but I just have, the $1,000 one, which is fancy enough for me and pretty expensive in its own right? So let me zoom in a hair here so we can see it. So the first thing we got to do is I'm going to hit Run Calc, and you'll see I have Gold Sovereign selected. So this is why, back in the days when I was in IT, we had this acronym, RTFM, read the friggin' manual, except we use more colorful terms than friggin'. So if someone had a question for you, remember the IT guy from Saturday Night Live, but it would be, RTFM. So reading manuals is important. So flipped open the manual, and I started looking around for what am I going to do with this 1917 sovereign. And we have a gold sovereign here, setting here, which is 91.7%. This gold sovereign is 91.67%, or 0.9167 fine. We also have a setting down here for the gold Britannia from 87 to 89, which also has this setting for 22 carats. So if you have a 22 carat gold coin, you might want to use this setting because you don't have a 22 carat setting on the Sigma itself. So I weighed the coin. It weighed perfect. It was 8 grams. I took the diameter of it with my calipers. It was perfect. And you can see here as I get it situated, it's gold. It's 22 karat gold. That's on the gold sovereign setting. The other setting we can use for this is we can go over to, that's a gold. Yeah, so the gold British 87 to 89. So if we hit Run Calc and we place the sample on here, and should get right in the middle. There it is. So thank you guys for watching. I learned something yesterday using my Sigma. I wanted to share that. I wanted to share some of the other fun stuff. Let me know if you guys think I should get this sucker graded, and let me know if you think I should do the crossover for PCGS on this, if you think it might be a 63 coin. Thanks, as always, for watching, and happy collecting. Bye, guys.